today with Sylvia Galbraith in her Silver Creek Studios in Fergus. So Sylvia, it's great to be here with you today, and we're going to spend some time and talk about your work.
Yeah, well, welcome, and
Thank you.
Really thrilled that you asked me to take part in this series, because people who know me well know that I love talking about my work. So.
All artists love talking about their work.
Yes,
Sylvia.
yeah, I suppose. Deep down inside, yeah, I think so.
Before we were on camera, we had a little bit of a discussion about how you started your journey, and I thought that was really a great discussion about you went to Sheridan College and you were registered in a course that you didn't know you were registered in, and the journey began. So let's hear that story again.
Oh, you want to go way back to
I want to go way
beginning.
back, 35
Okay,
years
well,
ago.
it all started when I was a baby, not quite, but I have always been involved in art. As a teenager, I was a painter and worked with charcoal and what have you. Spent all my free time painting, drawing, took lessons with local painters. So that's what I was always interested in, was the art. And I used to, being single, no boyfriend kind of thing, I would take courses through the winter just for special interest. And I was in my very early 20s, and I thought I'll sign up for a photography course, just for no real reason other than for fun. And I had this little plastic 110 camera. Some people may remember that. I'm kind of dating myself now.
That's okay.
But so these tiny little plastic cameras, and I thought, I wonder why my photos are no good. So I signed up for a program, a course at Sheridan College in Oakville, and it said, bring your camera to class. I showed up with my little Kodak Instamatic thing and looked around the room, and there were 30 other people with these massive SLR cameras and all the gear and everything. And you know that sinking feeling you get when you think, am I in the right room? Anyhow, it turned out that I had actually signed up for their 4-year commercial photography program. And the instructor was so nice, he was so kind, and he could have laughed me out of the room, and I probably would have gone back to my paint and never explored photography again, but he didn't. He said, can you borrow a camera for class, even just so you get a sense of what's involved? And I did that. 2 weeks later, I bought a whole kit from a news photographer who was upgrading. Bought an old Pentax Spotmatic that looked like it had fallen off a cliff, but it still worked. And I used that camera for years. Haven't looked back, never went back to painting. What I enjoyed about photography was the fact that I'm limited by the camera. I can't just paint trees where I want them to be. I can't change the type of lighting that I have at that time. So comparing that to the painting that I was doing, I find photography so much more of a challenge, and I like that.
Think about the end result of where that is going to go, or do you trust your intuition that you're taking an image that you just know is going to be right?
Bit of both. So sometimes I'll take a photograph, I'm not sure what's going to happen with it, I'm not even sure if I will like it in 6 months. But I have others that as soon as, even before I've made the photograph, and it'll be something to do with the way the light is hitting something, or the waves are curling in, just something about it, and I just know. And so I think
You just know.
I just know. I operate on intuition, and I think, again, back to why do I teach? Teaching helps me articulate that, and I've had moments where I've explained something to a student and thought, I just figured out why that photograph worked, and it might have been something I'd done a year ago. So, yeah.
So you do sell your work, Sylvia, and
yes.
For a lot of people that don't understand how photography images are sold. So you don't mass produce 150 images. How do you do what you do?
So in terms of numbers of photographs, so probably the biggest issue that people have in accepting photography as an art form is the fact that it seems to be easily reproduced. And I have had people say, well, you just churn out more. Part of it is personal philosophy. I know photographers who, yes, they churn out more at any size and any paper and any configuration.
Yep.
That's not me. And I think, again, it's partly because each piece is personal to me. I have some I don't want to sell, and I have a few that I have sold. I'm thinking of one right now that's at the Canadian Mental Health Association head office, and I'm thinking, why did I sell that? Yes, I could go and print another one, but it's not the same. And so in terms of what I do, or any photographer, you have to know what your personal philosophy is. For me, it's very limited number, especially these larger photographs.
And how many what does limited mean?
6.
6.
And sometimes not even 6.
Okay.
So this one behind me with the blue, that's a very personal one because the overlay is a photograph that my dad took and in 1952. So that's a bit of another series that, so he was always taking photographs of water, horizon, sky, water. And it was a bit of a family joke because no one knew where they were. He didn't remember where they were. And it was, oh, there goes Dad with the camera again, and it's sky and water. And after my second trip to Newfoundland, I started looking through my photographs and I went, oh my God, I'm doing the same thing. Blue sky, water, you know. So anyway, I started looking at his old photographs and realized that we were basically duplicating.
Interesting.
50, 60 years apart. So the one behind me with the overlay, so I print his old photographs on fabric and I match it up with one of my photographs.
Oh, that's
and this is
fabulous.
happening completely unrelated. So the one
fabulous.
here, his overlay was 1952. And it turns out it's the same ocean. Again, it was an old little square photo that I found in all his stuff. So that one is not for sale and it's never going to be reproduced.
Sure.
So, you know, it really depends on the image, but 6 is about it. And if I decide it needs to be a certain size, that's the size you get.
Good.
So this big one here, it has to be big. So you're not going to get an 8 by 10 out of it.
Right. Good for you, because that honors the integrity of the whole
Absolutely.
of the whole business, actually.
And I have them printed. I do my own test prints to make sure that the color, everything is what I saw at that time. I firmly believe that pressing the shutter button is almost the end of the process. So if I don't like the lighting, if the colors in the rock are dull because the sun's shining on them, I go back. And for some of my photographs, I've been back 3 or 4 times, usually in the rain. But so I do my test prints, and then I have the large prints done in Toronto at Toronto Imageworks. And they're printed to museum standards, they're mounted to museum standards, and again, because I treat them seriously,
And it shows in your work, quite frankly. So what's up next for Sylvia Galbraith?
Well, I will be going back to Newfoundland. You know, I guess I did probably a good or a benefit of the delay that I've had is in the meantime, I've received funding from the Ontario Arts Council for my next project, and I will be working in Newfoundland again. And it's kind of along the same lines, so landscape, bit of a documentary element, but it still goes to the idea of landscape, where we are, where we're standing, where we're going. Working a little bit more with older processes again, camera obscura.
I love that.
It's so cool.
I
you
love
know?
that.
And I think the more people steer off into this whole digital world, and photographs are now a computer-based activity, according to a lot of people. I mean, even a lot of universities and colleges are put it into their media program rather than their art program. But for me, the more there's a shift in that direction, the more I go the other way.
Good.
And that's why I bought the pinhole and
Good.
I'm playing with film.
Fantastic.
You know, it doesn't mean I'm giving up on digital. It's both. It's
Right.
everything.
You gotta do it all.
Yeah.
We should mention that you do have a solo show coming up at the Laura Center for the Arts.
Yes.
And when does that, is there a formal opening or when does it open?
We're hanging the show October 20th or so. Officially it will open on the 22nd of October. I want to have an opening. We're working out the logistics, but what we're looking at is to have a certain number of hours as the opening and stagger it so that we can say have 15 people in the gallery,
Right.
and people will be able to book their time slot online and just come in for that half hour or 45-minute window. A number of galleries I'm affiliated with have done that, and it has worked. In fact, in a way, people prefer it because we've all been to openings where you can't even see the artwork. So this way, people are saying, great, only 15 people, I can see the work, I can talk to the artist, and it's a bit more like a private showing. So we will be doing that. We just have to look at dates and logistics, but definitely.
Well, Sylvia, it's been a wonderful discussion, and I have a feeling that there's really great things ahead. Knowing what I know about you, and knowing that the connections that you have, and knowing that you are connected with the best of the best in Canada, I think that you have a really exciting journey ahead of you. So I wish you all the best, and thank you very much for doing the interview with me this morning.